So anyway, this,
sorry, we're not doing a very good job.
No, we're doing a terrible job. This trans woman, born male, transitioned to female as an adult, was apparently in the locker rooms at the Evergreen State College. Now, Evergreen is a college, but those locker rooms were being rented out, or somehow local high schools.
And swim teams for the elementary school kids.
Oh, I didn't know the elementary school.
As young as 6.
I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
So these girls from these schools encountered this trans woman who has not surgically transitioned.
Not pre-op either, non-op. No intention to have surgical change.
So male genitalia in a female locker room where...
In a middle-aged man where there's teenage girls and younger.
Right. And some of the girls apparently reported this to their parents, and the parents requested that something be done to get the situation remedied. And anyway, the remedy, maybe we should just show them the video at this point. Zach, do you have it?
The person at the center of this controversy says she is being discriminated against. Forced to leave a facility she has a legal right to use.
I looked at her and said, "Excuse me?" And she said, "You have to leave. I'll be right back."
Colleen Francis says she was using the sauna and women's locker room inside the recreation center at Evergreen State College 2 Wednesdays ago. The same facilities used by 2 female high school swim teams from Olympia who practice in this pool. A woman told Francis to leave.
She wouldn't identify herself. All she said was that there were a couple of girls that came upstairs to the pool and said that there's a man in the sauna.
But Francis, who acknowledges she was born a man, says she has lived as a woman since 2009. Still, someone called campus police, and local parents got wind of it.
They're uncomfortable with him being in there, her being in there, and they are a bit shocked by it.
Christy Holterman's daughter was one of the swimmers. Holterman complained to Evergreen. College officials tell us they have been working with the Olympia School District, which leases space at the pool. But state law requires equal access to state facilities, regardless of sexual orientation. So local school officials tell us they came up with a temporary solution.
There's a smaller private locker room next to the main locker room there at the pool, and they've been using that.
But Francis says she believes the students need an education.
This is not 1959 Alabama. We don't call the police for drinking from the wrong water fountain.
But the
All right, so there you have it. So this obviously raises interesting questions and creates a pretty good illustration of why inventing pronouns and forcing some kind of new usage is not a solution to the problem. Did you notice this? That the spokesman for Evergreen there says that the college has attempted to come up with a remedy and that it has found some other locker rooms that they now use. And it is unclear in the report whether they refers to the girls of these swim teams or whether they refers to the single individual in question. Now, in fact, in writing, they remedied this in a clumsy way, but in the written piece, they clarify it in parentheses, and they say that, in fact, it is the swim teams that are using these separate...
Smaller, less good facilities because of this one person who, in a separate report, is revealed served in the military for 20 years and is now wearing a low estrogen patch and lipstick, apparently. And that is, I'm sorry, this makes me so angry.
Well,
So, we've talked about trans a lot in a lot of places. I encourage people to look at my letter wiki exchange with Abigail Schreier. If you are concerned that I'm not being respectful, we have trans friends. We say over and over that trans is real. And actually I think the first question we're going to get to in our Q&A this next hour is some people who are really concerned that, what could we possibly be talking about when we say that? But create a system that's gameable and it's going to get gamed. And how dare any system put girls and young women at risk because a dude wearing lipstick who has sort of girly affectations wants to be in the sauna with his bits hanging out. It's not okay.
Yeah,
It's not okay.
I agree it's not okay. I'm not sure her name was revealed. I think there's no harm in using it.
Yeah.
Colleen here, I'm not sure that the onus is on her to figure out how to navigate this. But I do think that the institution has an obligation to protect those girls first and foremost.
Well, as was the case in 2017 when what happened at Evergreen happened there, it is not primarily the individuals who are spouting garbage's fault.
Yep.
It is the responsibility of the so-called adults to walk in and say, you're spouting garbage and you will stop now, and we are going to take whatever power you have wrested illegitimately away from you. This person, Colleen, is it? Has the freaking audacity to say this isn't Alabama 1959, I think is the random year that she comes up with, rather than I think 57 is probably what 55, you don't even remember. No, it's not. And frankly, a guy with an estrogen patch and lipstick is not a black person using a drinking fountain. A guy with an estrogen patch and lipstick naked in a sauna with a bunch of girls, it's a different situation. And everyone knew that until yesterday. And this is something we talked about. I think this is, Douglas Murray's formulation. Like it's one of these things that we all knew until yesterday. And how is it that we are all pretending that the emperor has clothes? Emperor has no clothes here.
So I agree with you. I still think the onus is on the institution. And while I think it is very clear, for many reasons, some of them biological, that the analogy to the drinking fountains is completely out of place.
It's despicable.
Well, is it despicable?
It's despicable that this person would claim that they were fighting a civil rights fight when what they're actually fighting for is the right to be naked in front of young women.
She shouldn't be in that locker room. You and I agree on that. The question is, this is on institutions as a reflection of the rest of us to get this right and to prioritize those who actually are in need of protection. And so in this case, what you have is somebody born male, right? Now, why is it that women have their own locker rooms? Why is it that they have their own, divisions in sports? And, why?
Prisons.
Right. That exists because males, for reasons, it's not our fault, but the fact is, evolutionary history gave us a power advantage, and that power advantage in the case of sexuality also creates a special hazard for women. Not only are men in a position to overpower women on average, but the harm of having done so is that much greater. Now, this is partially historical, but just the simple fact of women carrying pregnancies means that the jeopardy here is all the greater. So do women deserve protections from men? Yes, they do, right? For reasons that aren't any of our fault. It just happens to be the situation. There's an asymmetry in the biology, and that asymmetry justifies a protection. That protection does not reverse because you decide that you're female or because you feel female. And therefore, the institution absolutely has to provide protections to these girls, rather than what they have apparently done here, which I can't say I'm all that surprised given how frequently this institution flies in the face of logic on such things, but has prioritized the rights of this individual trans woman, that is to say, born male, transition to female. They have prioritized her rights over the rights of numerous girls who are both disadvantaged by having been born female and therefore likely being smaller, are disadvantaged by virtue of their age, right? And so they are actually vulnerable. And so what I want to be careful of is when I saw that interview with Colleen here, I thought the fact that She acknowledged that she was born male, didn't seem sensitive about it, was willing to talk about the fact that, one of these girls had apparently complained about a man in the locker room. She talked about it in an adult fashion. So I'm sympathetic that there's actually potentially something to be solved here, but there's no question who needs to be protected in the situation from whom. Right? I don't know that Colleen is a danger. I assume she's not. But the fact that we segregate women because somewhere in amongst men are men who are dangerous means that those protections should remain no matter what.
Yeah. I'm going to end up ranting if I say much more about this.
Well,
so, a 16-year-old girl who walks into a women's sauna naked and sees someone with cock and balls and reports that there's a man in the locker room, the person in possession of said cock and balls not being offended that someone saw them and identified them as male, that's a really low bar. That is a really low bar for being impressed with this person's response.
Well,
come on.
Look, I do think we because, and I agree with your assessment that we have, this is a dangerous thing to say, but I believe it is a literal thing, and that you're quite right about it. That you have the phenomenon of trans, whatever it may be, and then you have a bunch of people utilizing the opportunity to opt into two oppressed classes. That is to say, trans people have a difficult road based on perceptions of them, and females are able to avail themselves of protections for the reasons we've already described. And so the ability to opt into two protected categories is irresistible for some men, and they will do it. There are unscrupulous men, and they will do it. But I just don't know. I never want to assume that that's the explanation. It is something that can be revealed in some cases.
I guess just one more thing, and I did allude to this earlier, but this case makes my blood pressure spike in part because the interview, which we showed you guys, has this person doing little sort of girly things with their hair and their necklace and like this. And this feels like, and I'm not the first, this is not the first time I've said this, I'm not the first to say it, and it will be said many, many times again, but this feels like the most regressive and misogynistic view of what woman is that maybe not the most misogynistic and regressive view of what woman is, but it's incredibly retro. It's incredibly woman-hating, actually. That is not, doing this doesn't make me a girl, right?
It reduces
that's not what it is.
It reduces it to an affectation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there are plenty of us women out here who don't do that, and there are plenty of women who do. And in neither case does the doing or not doing things like playing with our hair make us a woman. No. And if you're a dude who wants to play with your hair and act that way, okay. But there is no way in which that makes you female. No.
All right. But I still